home journal that was calling for accounts from survivors of the Titanic by a man named Walter Lord. Walter Lord was beginning the research for his book, his classic now, A Night to Remember. And there was an article about it in the Ladies' Home Journal that Charles saw. And he responded through the help of a translator. One of the negative aspects of him not, being able to be in school full time as a child was that he needed help reading and writing. And so some of the information that he shared with Walter Lord might have been lost in translation, but he was able to work with help of a translator to get a great majority of the truth to him. And that information was in the book, A Night to Remember. And that's why we see him in the movie, A Night to Remember, and also in the James Cameron Titanic movie. So it's interesting the way this man was able to open up finally with people about what happened beyond the British inquiry, of course, because of a call from a journalist, an author like Walter Lord.
Hey everyone, Scott here. One more brief word from our sponsors. All right, well, thank you for talking about his life. And in most shows, we would end there. But on this show, because we talk about the culinary history of the Titanic as well, we're going to look at Charles's contribution to our unsinkable drinking, dining, and style guide. So, Veronica, when you were looking at his life, how did you want to match up his life to a particular recipe, and what came out?
Well, Scott, I loved when I found out from his great niece how Charles used to make beautiful chocolate painted eclairs. And ironically, chocolate eclairs were on the first class menu on that last night of the Titanic sailing. And so it just was the perfect recipe to include in this story. And for the recipe contributor, Gail Gann, she's a pastry chef, author, teacher, and a James Beard Award winner. She's based in Chicago. She really loves the whole story of the Titanic because she's felt inspired by it as well. She, loves England and studying England, and she contributed this recipe for mini eclairs. And this is a wonderful recipe for many reasons. One of them is that they're very passable at a party. You can make small eclairs instead of the great big long ones you see at the bakery, but they're small enough that you can put a tray out or have a tray passed around at a party, and they're absolutely delicious. They include Gail's recipe for pâte à choux, which is the puff part of the pastry, and it's the pastry puff, and it's also a splendid nod to the prevailing French food that we know was aboard the Titanic at all meals.
All right, so that really kicks it up a gear when you say that this is the specific food that was on the Titanic. So you'll just blow people's minds with that.
Yeah, we don't know for sure, of course, what those French chefs were working with for a recipe for those eclairs. And I would venture to guess it's similar, though.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. And if people want the full recipe, they can go to the show notes for our page, which I'll mention here in a second. So, Veronica, thanks for sharing all this. And that wraps up our first episode diving into the specific life of someone on the Titanic. In the next episode, we're going to be moving on to the cooks and the ice cream makers. See you there. All right. Well, that is the episode for today. And I really appreciate you listening because it's you, the audience, that makes this show happen. And it's also you, the audience, that grows this show. First of all, I'd like to thank the Knowlton's Rangers, and especially our spy masters, Baron Fraser, Carl from Norway, Chris Romaine, Moon Doggy from Ohio, and Rick Knowlton, and I'll explain what that means in a second. If you would like to help support this show and help it reach new listeners who haven't discovered it yet, there's 4 easy ways for you to do it. First, subscribe to the show and leave us a review on the listening app of your choice. If you want to do that, you can go to historyunplugpodcast.com. 2, like us on Facebook and share posts about new episodes. 3, check out sponsors for the show. This is the best way to help me pay the bills, because if sponsors see the audience is interested in their products, they will keep advertising. 4, you can become a member of the Knowlton's Rangers. The Knowlton's Rangers were an elite reconnaissance and espionage detachment of the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, but it's also the name of the History Unplugged membership program. Learn how to join by going to patreon.com/unplugged. So here's what you get if you become one of the Knowlton's Rangers. If you join at the level of Scout, you can get early access to new podcast episodes, along with enjoying absolutely every single episode of the History Unplugged podcast ad-free. All 270 and counting episodes. If you join at the level of Intelligence Officer, you can also get access to premium episodes, like a multi-part series on the life of Audie Murphy, the most decorated combat soldier in World War II, or the 10-part series Ottoman Lives, a series that looks at the cast of characters that made up the Ottoman Empire, such as the Sultan, the Eunuch, the harem servant girl, and the soldier. And finally, if you join at the level of Spy Master, you get all the same stuff as the Scouts and Intelligence Officers, but you also get a shout-out to you and or your business at the end of each episode, a 3-pack of hardcover history books, plus you will be put at the very front of the line for me to answer your question about history, and I can guarantee I will dedicate an episode that's about an hour long or so to your question. Sign up at patreon.com/unplugged. Again, that's patreon.com/unplugged. Anyway, those are the ways you can help out the show. Thank you so much for your support. Thanks for listening to the History Unplugged podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show to get your daily dose of all things history related, from ancient Greece to the Cold War. We'll see you next time at the History Unplugged podcast.